So hello everyone, welcome to this panel discussion section on industry analytics courses, the needs, contents, and expectation. So my name is Liu from Wisconsin-Madison. I will be the chair for these sections. So the goal of this section today is try to push the frontiers and increase the exposures of analytics courses offered by the IE departments. So all the panelists that we invited today are the leading researchers in this field and who has already offered the related analytics courses in their school. So luckily we're very honored to have Professor Zhou from UW-Madison and Professor Satish Bukkapatnam from Texas A&M and Professor Soundar Kumara from Penn State University. And through these discussions, a lot of topics will be covered, but not limited to, such as technical contents should be covered in the analytics courses, the effective way of teaching analytics courses, and appropriate choice for the software, the design for the project, and also the expected skills for the students after taking this class. And also the panelists will share with us about their experience and the challenges when they teach such classes before. And through these discussions, we hope we can establish an interactive forum and for discussion and sharing the analytical materials, which will strengthen the curriculum and enhance the representation of IE departments for analytics research and education. So today's section will mainly have two parts. So the first part will be the panelists give a brief introduction, and then we'll follow by Q&A sections. So now let's welcome to our first speaker, Professor Zhou from University of Wisconsin-Madison.
First of all, thank you for coming. My talk will be very brief. I will just briefly introduce the courses I offered in last fall semester. The course is called Industrial Data Analytics. So it's offered at the UW-Madison IE department as an upper division undergraduate / graduate level course. So here is a brief outline. So I will introduce the basic information about this course, the enrollment, etc. Then I will mainly discuss the topics I covered in this course and the projects, like what is the project assignment and what are the typical kind of projects students have done, and some lessons learned, like throughout this course, like what I've learned on this data analytics education. So this course is offered in fall 2014, and the enrollment is not very high. Initially, we have about 20 students enrollment, but 4 of them dropped after sitting the course for 2 to 3 lectures. They found it's pretty quantitative, so they just dropped. Eventually, we have 16 people, and among the 16 people, we have 10 graduate students and 6 undergraduate students. So I intentionally designed this course not as a PhD level data analytics course. I designed this course for undergraduate students, upper division undergraduate student, and master student. So I try not involve too many proofs, too many theorems in this course. So the grading policy I set is I do have homework. So a lot of homework is computer exercise. So and I have a project, not very heavy, account 20%. Then I have an in-class exam. So it's not a take-home exam, not computer exercise, just solving data analytics problem by hand. So it's I have 2 exams. Those is the basic grading policy for this course. The major reference I used is this one. So it's called Introduction to Statistical Learning. It's a fairly new book. The reason I select this book because I found the topics covered in this book match my need the best. It didn't cover 100% of all the topic I want to cover, but it cover almost 70%, 60 to 70% of the topics I want to cover. So I select this book. And the supplemental material of this book is also pretty good. So they have slides online, they have all the data set online, so from this book. And I have another 2 reference book. This one, I think most people in data analytics area know. It's kind of a classical book, but pretty deep. It's a PhD level textbook. So for this one, it's, I introduce to the very good students. They want to learn more, so they can take this book. And the first book is the data mining book, introduce the basic algorithm. So for anomaly detection part, I take some material. In classification and anomaly detection part, I take some material from this book. So the software I use in class is Excel plus MATLAB. Actually, I spend a lot of time to think. So what software package I should use in this course. So I thought several different combinations, and finally limited by the capacity of our computer network, like in school. So I can only select this Excel plus MATLAB. So let me tell you the reason. So when I select the software package, I think of 3 factors. One is the learning curve of the student, because this course, I don't want to design it as a pure software learning course. So students will mainly learn the different algorithms. So the software is only part of it. So the software should not be too difficult to learn. If a student spend too much time in learning the software, the student will not have any time to really understand those algorithms. The second factor is the flexibility. So what type of algorithm student can easily implement based on this package. So Excel has this Excel is the simplest to learn, but it's not flexible enough. So it cannot implement very kind of sophisticated algorithm. So we need to add this MATLAB to implement those more complicated algorithms. The third one is kind of hard rule. Availability in computer labs. So in our computer lab, for example, at the beginning, I want to use third-party statistical package built in Excel. So essentially, it's kind of add-on in Excel, but it's pretty powerful. Can implement all sorts of data analysis algorithm, but we cannot install it in our computer lab. So I have to skip. And this one is available in our computer lab. And this one is very interesting. I found that it's, if I have a dedicated course for software learning, probably I will teach this. It's Excel plus this Microsoft SQL Server. So SQL Server have a data analytics functionality. And on client side, we have Excel. So through Excel, we can access the background SQL Server. But unfortunately, in our lab, it's not available. So our IT person strongly against us to install SQL Server in our computer lab. It's not secure, whatever, all sorts of reasons. So no way we can install independent SQL Server in our computer lab. So I have to skip this. Another one is R. R is very flexible. It's very popular in practice. But for engineering students, the learning curve is kind of high. So most engineering students, like undergraduate students or master students, do not have background in R. So they will spend a lot of time learning the grammar for R. So I eventually give up on this part. So I just go this easiest route, Excel plus MATLAB, because most engineering students have this MATLAB background. So here is a list of topics I covered in this course. So first is just a review basic statistics, like distribution, concept of random variable, and hypothesis testing. So review those basic concepts. I do include some kind of process knowledge, like what are typical sensors people use in practice, how to measure speed, measure the temperature, measure the force, etc. in a manufacturing process. So I do have a little bit discussion on the sensing technology, sensing and inspection. in manufacturing product system. Then I add this transformation, covers this principal component analysis and Fourier analysis. So I believe those two transformation techniques is very fundamental for industrial engineers to understand the raw signal collected from practice. So often people need to go through those type of transformation to take a look at the signal in another domain to understand the signal better. So, and the rest is kind of a typical data analytics topic. The regression, classification, and classroom, all those three chunks are covered in that textbook, in that introduction to statistical learning book. And in the regression part, I cover the linear regression, logistic regression for classification, and this regression with nonlinear shapes. Essentially, it's a nonlinear regression. And for the classification, cover LDA, QDA, tree-based method, and SVM. So this kind of relatively a little bit more advanced. So, and the classroom, the anomaly detection is not covered in that textbook, but I think it's fairly important because the whole quality control in industrial engineering is built upon anomaly detection, like SPC control charts. It's a special case of anomaly detection. So I also introduced this anomaly detection in this course. Here is the basic time period covered by each topic. Essentially, the introduction plus the transformation cover about this slightly less than 1/3 of the time. So the middle part, the regression classification and this classroom, that's cover half, almost half. The anomaly detection is the rest. So I do have several lectures left for this student presentation of their projects. So this is the basic structure. So now talk about this project. So I designed the course project as a team project, but I require each student to handle one data analysis method. So the same team can share the same data set, share the same problem, but each person should take one typical method. For example, if the problem is classification, so one person can do LDA or QDA, another person needs to do a tree-based method, a third person can do a SVM. So they cannot, multiple persons work on the same data set, same problem. In that case, the workload is too low. So each person needs to take care of one method, and they can discuss. And from those comparison for the same problem but different methods, I believe students can deepen their understanding of the features, characteristics of different type of methods. So that's one feature in the project design. And for the data set, so during my research, I accumulated many this real data set from different industry. So I gave students, some are simulated, like emulate the real data and give the simulated data to the students. And another data source is just the internet. So the student can just download whatever data set they think is interesting from internet and work on it. So this is the project report. Essentially, all these bullet points I require students to do well. Like the motivation, why we want to do this data analysis project, and mathematical problem formulation. So from the engineering problem, formulate into a data processing problem and the methods. Model validation and evaluation is very important. You cannot blindly use one method, just tell people the results. So you need to validate the model and the engineering interpretation of the final results and discussion on improvement, potential improvement in the future. And the final is product presentation. So among this whole class, we have about 6 projects, and most of them are using my research data. So because the data downloaded from the internet tend to be simple, it's not too complicated, but either too simple or too complicated, too large. data set is too large, it's difficult to handle. So the research data I give them, I package it pretty well. So like, what is the problem? What do we try to do? So I don't know. It's simply lazy or just pick whatever I give them to work on, whatever. But most of them select the research data set I give them. So here are the key lessons so I learned from teaching this course. So industrial case and examples are very powerful for students to learn, to understand the algorithm. But it's very time consuming to produce a very nice one. So it's really time consuming to create a very nice industrial case. And so for industrial engineers doing data analytics, the difference from IE people to statistician or computer science people is the linking data-driven model with the first principles. Like we understand the problem system better. So from first principles knowledge, we can decide what's the best data analytics method or what the best data model we should use. And to students, when we teach an algorithm, it's very important to tell students what is the boundary of the methods. So students tend to blindly apply whatever method they know, but don't understand this boundary very well. So like what are the conditions we should have to apply this method? And nice hands-on exercises are not common. Like hands-on means the exercise people can do by hand, not by computer. So we have quite a lot. It's very easy to create a lot of computer exercise, but not very easy to create the manual exercise. But I believe manual exercise is very important for students to understand the concept. So this, I do believe it will be very beneficial to collaborate, to share the course material, so to enrich the whole database.
Yeah, I think we can hold on the questions until the Q&A sections. Please, Satish.
Good afternoon, and thank you very much. And thank you, Kaibo, for inviting me for this panel. I just want to share my experience teaching this engineering data analytics class. This course has been offered since fall of 2014, so a couple of iterations of having taught this class, so I'm going to share some of my experiences. And more than the experiences, I probably will be laying before you several questions. Questions in terms of what does engineering analysis or engineering analytics means, and what kind of distinguishing aspects that we can bring to bear, and what would be the value of what we're going to offer to our students. So let me begin by providing the overall motivation, just to something that everybody agrees with. Yeah, data is becoming one of the major elements of any industrial sector that we deal with. And the challenges is not in terms of collecting data as much as trying to use the data for making decisions. So from data to decisions is where the challenges are headed. And engineering data analysis, again, please correct me and then update, edit what I'm putting it here, is basically the process of capturing the process knowledge using the data. And the knowledge is represented in the form of a pattern or a model. So that, in essence, what I think engineering data analytics essentially aims to achieve. And when we look at engineering data analytics, talking to many people, engineering analytics can mean different things to different groups. It's broadly classified into descriptive, predictive, and prescriptive. And descriptive analytics, essentially the visualization folks, some of my colleagues in architecture, when they say data analytics, all that means is like coming up with some judges in the meteorology. To them, data analytics means mostly descriptive. And what we all agree upon as data analytics is basically predictive analytics mostly, looking at forecasting, estimation, and things that Professor Zhou had presented a few moments ago. In addition to that, there is another wing of analytics that is prescriptive analytics, which is basically looking at making use of the predictions to make appropriate decision support. And my class that I have taught essentially focuses on predictive analytics. And when you look at analytics, what I mean is predictive analytics, at Texas A&M we have a nice suite of courses both at undergraduate as well as graduate level. And undergraduate level, we typically have courses beginning with probability and stat to some specific software tools including Microsoft Excel, Access, and so on. And then we have data intense course that where people get to learn about dealing with data and quality, DOE type of a class, as well as a big data class that's going to be coming up ground pretty soon. At the graduate level, we have multiple programs. A&M is one of the Texas-sized programs, so I think we have many things to deal with. So at graduate level, we have engineering data analytics, which is at the very fundamental level. And also, students can graduate to taking advanced quality, design of experiments, advanced analytics, as well as they can kind of go take courses in stat department and computer science in advanced technical methodologies in data analytics. And for graduate program, we have professional level master's program, as well as basically graduate programs in systems engineering, as well as more research-driven programs. So the courses here kind of cater to the different sections of the graduate students. And the course that I teach, called Engineering Data Analysis, is basically an introductory graduate course, focusing on data analytics for engineers. And it uses the same textbook that Professor Zhou mentioned a few moments ago, by James and all. And I completely concur with all the remarks Professor Zhou made about the quality of the course. And this course pretty much matches very well with the objectives of the class, essentially to provide introductory, at the same time hands-on experiences. By hands-on, I'm not looking at students to learn about how a particular method works, as opposed to learning about what that method essentially means and how to apply them to different contexts. So essentially, it's a little bit more broad-based, broad aspects of emerging field of analytics, and focusing on predictive modeling, focused again to master's students, with aim to learn about those various broad brush of different techniques available out there, as well as how they can be applied to different engineering applications, and learning to actually do those applications themselves. And for prior preparation, we basically are not requiring too many prerequisites. Introductory graduate standing with some background in probability and statistics is what is required. And for the format of the class, it has both on-campus as well as distance components. These are some numbers, again, like Texas-sized program has Texas-sized numbers, actually several on-campus, and now we would like to have this number grow in the distance side. And as of tomorrow, I will be beginning the summer component of this class. And this course, essentially, in order to cater to both online as well as distance, one thing that my experience is extremely valuable is preparation of a course packet. Essentially, things cannot be highly synchronized. How we can maintain sanity is if we can kind of have a nice packet that could be shared between both on-campus as well as distance. And the packet should include all these elements: the lecture materials, specific videos of your lectures, appropriate codes and lab sessions well-defined, and also a complete project plan. And also maybe talk to your departments to incentivize you to offer this course, prepare those course packets. At Texas A&M experience, it helped us a lot. Okay. Again, this is it's an eye chart, but I just want to put this so that you get a feel for what gets covered in this class. Essentially, I have 10 modules corresponding to 10 chapters in that textbook. I'm kind of following the textbook almost in total. And every week, they will be having lectures as well as labs. So if I'm teaching Monday, Wednesday, Friday format, Monday and Wednesday would be lecture and Friday would be focused on the lab. And if I'm doing Tuesday, Thursday, Tuesday lecture and Thursday lab. So essentially, there's a heavy lab component to this class. And as the class evolves towards the end, the focus will be mostly on the applications as well as on some of the project-related material. And personally, I felt some of the data sets that the textbook actually has as part of its supplement is to be extremely useful. However, they may be a little bit small in terms of size, as Professor Zhou mentioned. So we basically supplement it with some of your personal data sets that you have acquired from your other projects that you have been engaged in. In terms of execution, the policy is very similar to what was stated. But what I would like to share with you is some of the lessons that I have learned and some of the questions that I have going based on what I had offered. The first thing is, what is the brand, so to speak, for industrial engineering version of a data analytics class? So when we say talk about engineering focus, what is it? That is, again, I have more questions than answers, but this is something that I've been thinking about. Second thing is motivating our students. Essentially, yeah, we can do our course projects, they can do well, but I have been looking at some of the business schools analytics classes. Of course, they get a lot of funding from companies like SAS and others. What they do is they actually work on the same data sets, the entire class of 200 plus students. And they have similar classes offered across the country. And after finishing the class, the students are working on the same data and then go to some kind of a data mining conference that SAS or some company organizes. They compete, and then it's basically a big deal for the student in the sense that they get certificates and all those good industry recognition. Maybe, again, maybe, we as a group can think about organizing a data challenge with where students work on our respective classes and come here during the ISERC and then compete for the final round. In addition to the papers, maybe we can think about doing something like this for undergraduates and graduate students. That is some thought. And in terms of work within our campus, that may be our IE's version, our IE's answer to the, cars that our mechanical engineering friends make, right? And also some of those boards and bridges our civil engineering friends make. So maybe it can be our answer to some of those things. And the last thought is more in terms of what kind of topics and coverage that we need to offer. The current course that I'm teaching seems to be strengthened by adding some elements of text mining and text analytics. That is something kind of bubbling up through the horizon. And then students who went on to taking their internships as well as jobs, they kind of come back and tell me that maybe if I want to change some things, maybe add some of this. But I don't have personal experience of having done any research on this, so I probably have to learn and offer some of these. But that's nonetheless something that may be worth thinking about. Second aspect that needs to be covered is mostly in terms of data processing. It's not just about analytics, but also about bringing the data to a point where your analytic tools can be extremely useful. And people kind of consistently mention that Python or some such software would be of some use. And the third one is my personal favorite. Probably I'm pushing my personal agenda here, but most of the data analytics tools essentially look at static data. Essentially, if you have a bunch of columns A and you're kind of a bunch of columns B, you're basically looking at static relationship between A and B. And more and more, you're looking at video images, sensor data, RFID data, all those kinds of things. So essentially, you're looking at stream data as opposed to a static set of data. Can we kind of interest our students in learning some of these tools? If so, what kind of background they need? How do we kind of prepare a class or bottle it down to something that would be offered at an entry-level graduate level? And last thing that student talked about is, as we talk in terms of data analytics, one aspect that nothing to do with your engineering technical side, but ethical side. There may be certain things that we can talk about in terms of ethics, as well as privacy issues and all. How do we deal with those? That may be something that I don't cover, but something that we may have to cover. So these are basically the questions I have, and then maybe something that we can discuss downstream in this session. And with that note, thank you very much.
So our next panelist is Professor Soundar Kumara from Penn State University.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for coming here. And the first two speakers have already told everything you need to know about data analytics. So I'm trying to create a context and see whether I can motivate you in case you're going to teach a course like this or already teaching a course like this, how these little experiences of mine you can use to package a course that will be useful. Okay, that is my motivation, and that's why I'm going last, because it's slightly different, and I try to finish in 15 minutes. Otherwise, if you have any questions, please send me an email. Definitely, I may be slow in responding, but nevertheless I will respond. So I would say is there a confusion or a clarity, or we don't care? If you look at all these terms here, data analytics, data mining, big data analytics, industrial analytics, engineering analytics, data science, and I can read the whole list: business analytics, health analytics, etc. This happened to design research long time back. Design for manufacturing, design for assembly, design for X. Maybe that's where we are heading to. So X analytics or analytics for X. Nevertheless, we are going to live with this. But without analytics, you're not going to survive in the future, that's obviously. And we might as well teach our students, and we might as well learn things about it. So this is a slide from 1999. I didn't know what to talk till about today morning. I knew that others will talk about the courses, how do I motivate this? And one of my PhD students who now is with Samsung, when you look at any sensor system, you have sensor data acquisition first, the physical devices or physical sensors. You would do some kind of exploratory analysis and try to do the time domain characteristics, or you can do the frequency domain, or combine both of them, use something like a wavelet, a representation, data representation as the first part. And then after representing, for the sake of parsimony, compactness, you would like to extract features and then study those features. And then maybe if you have multiple sensors, you try to fuse that particular data. So when you look at an exploratory analysis, you may want to see other faults that are propagating. And then you try to use it to do a predictive modeling. When you are doing this, you would use the sensor data as well as some understanding of the physics of the process. In turning process in a lathe, you might say the ratio of forces in X and Y directions or X and Z directions. Use them as an indicator along with whatever signals you are getting. Then maybe you look at the patterns of evolution with time, which you have extracted from here. And then from this, you are trying to see a diagnosis. Are there any faults, anomaly, what Shiyu called anomalies detection here. We're looking at, okay, are there any problems? And then look into the current state of the system and then do a maintenance. We all know this. When you go to a doctor, doctor does this, right? When you go to your physician, they check different things, look at the features. Features are temperature and maybe blood pressure and other things. And then look at what are the normal values and then compare them with the predicted values for the particular person and then see what kind of maintenance you can. This is the essence to me, or is this a foundation for doing any kind of a data analysis. During the 90s, people called it as data-driven manufacturing. Today, it has taken a different shape. So this is a simple example in terms of crack propagation in a gearbox. So we would like to pick up signals from force, vibration, or acoustic emission, etc., and then try to predict before it fades. Therefore, you can take a control action on this particular. Control action here, maybe replace the gear or do something else. Obviously, this is a physical setup. One thing is I'm just putting some graphs. Physical setup wherein you try to run a gear down by increasing the force to like 150% of the RMS value and see how your system is behaving. System evolution, that is a prediction of what people are talking about here. Or when you talk of signals, Okay, so if you represent the signals simply in terms of the what we call frequencies domain, obviously what you're going to see is peaks within some particular time dimensions. These are the features that you're going to extract, or the patterns you observe. These patterns for every 52.63 milliseconds, this is repeating. Then when we actually see this, there's a problem with one of the gear teeth. So then we want to represent it in an effective manner. So this is something in wavelets which we did, perhaps around in the frequency. When you look at Fourier transform, they only give you within the frequencies, dominant frequencies. And when you go to wavelets, you not only look at frequencies, but also you look at time. It is like a what do you call windowed Fourier transforms. So very, very similar. So you can exploit some of this. That is what the analytics part of it is. You can exploit some of these characteristics. Here the representation characteristic is a wavelet, and that is, and then see how here using that particular, like when you look at this particular frequency and this frequency, so there is a change that goes from the lower frequencies to higher frequencies. When in any kind of a spectrum like this, you can compute the energy. The change here can be represented in terms of change in energy and then used as a predictor. That is your prediction model in this case. This work, you can see here different kinds of anomalies, different kinds of failures, which can simply be extracted by looking at the energies and how the energies are working. It's impossible for me to explain all these things in 10 minutes, but you get the point. You have a representation for your data, and then you need to extract the features. These features here are in terms of the energy that is going from a lower, higher frequency to a lower frequency. And you can see the exploratory analysis, and in this particular case, this is a time series plots on a lathe. The other one was with respect to a gearbox. This is on a lathe turning process. And another way of representing this is I can do a point curve maps, because these signals tend to be nonlinear, they tend to be dynamic, and they are chaotic. So this in fact proves that it's chaotic, and Satish in fact did this work when he was a PhD student. Before that, most of the analysis was done with Sagar and UW-Madison and other people. These were early 90s, not even at a later point. So some of these works we have are machine condition monitoring first work in using the physical model as well as the data of 1990, and there's a series of things. So you can look at it as an advertisement. On the other hand, you can look at it as you have what are the fundamental things when you teach any analytics courses. One is representation, time series is one kind of a representation. Another is the feature extraction. Feature extraction is in terms of even relating the covariance can be one particular feature. So you need to teach those things to the students. Let me switch gears, come to the contemporary thing, and I don't know whether you want to call it industrial analytics or some analytics or B analytics, whatever Satish has put up. What you want to do is, this is stored. When you walk in, somebody needs to give you an ad for or a coupon for what you're going to buy. So identify you, number one. Number two, identify what you have bought in the past. Number three, identify what people like you have also bought. Amazon.com, if you buy a book, then you get a recommendation. Next is send a coupon of your what they call PDF. So this particular work just simply, this is in my undergraduate course, which I started offering in fact, 2001 as an elective, and then in 2005 it became a regular engineering analytics course for the undergrad. They learn many of the things which the earlier speakers have presented. And at the end of the course, they do this project. I give them the data of real retail store of 28 different items, and then of about 2-year data and daily sales. So you have large volume of data. The students have to represent it in a database, number one, so that you can get lots of analysis as well as visualizations. So here the student did lots of things like predicting which item will go sell well. Number 2, which 2 items go together. Number 3, where should I put this particular item in which part of the shelf, so on and so forth. When you do this here, this student did it as a part of a course project with 4 students together. However, he started working with me and also some of my students and built the whole thing in R. All the analysis was done in R, and then in fact, 80% of my undergrad students, when they do this project, I tell them when you go to an interview, take your project report with you. So you have enough kind of analysis in that to motivate. And a lot of people came back. And this course I taught, and one of my grad students, Seifu, taught it a couple of times. And these people have come back and told us they got a job because of this kind of analysis. To show a simple graph here, this is the days in the 2 years, because roughly 700 plus. These are like user IDs of all the different kinds of users. And these colors represent items, and the diameter of this represents sales volume on a particular. So just a simple visualization in this case of one particular thing. And this is, let me switch another thing. I'm trying to give you context so that you can build whatever is the content that would be needed from the point of view of analysis. This is, you can read papers, like for example, you have several papers on cod liver oil, and then coagulation of blood, and then platelet counts in blood. These are medical publications, if you want to call it that way. So there is Raynaud's syndrome is the blood not coagulating well. So they found out they could relate this to cod liver oil. So therefore, they can find a drug to cure this particular disease by simply reading literature and then trying to connect things together. This is, if you want to call it data mining, text mining, or whatever name we want to give it, that's okay with me. So what we did was we downloaded, in fact, this is Seifu Chonde's work, and Seifu and Ken here, they built a cluster of if you want to analyze those so-called big data. So they put the hardware together. We downloaded about 800,000 publications, papers from open literature. 800,000 is not a small number. From this, what we did was, if 2 chemicals appear together in one particular paper, chemical 1 and chemical 2, if they appear together, then you put each one of them as a node in the network and put a link between them. Successfully by doing it, you can build a large network, and so this is a fairly large network in this particular case. And then you look at the connection, the diameter represents how many times they have actually appeared, and then you can build lots of fancy stuff. What today we can call it as graph analytics or so. So you can see how this chemical, in fact, the animation is not here, but you can see how you can shrink this network or enlarge this network. Yeah. So you can see here, by looking into the literature, 1999 to 2014, in 1999, there was no article in the, what do you call it, what is PMC? Public?
PubMed.
Yeah, PubMed Center, the open access, PMCOA. If it is that way, I could have gotten the whole thing. So this word cancer never appeared. So as time progresses, in fact, you can see simply by looking into the connections, you can simply see that there is a decaying relationship between these 2 drugs. Over a period of time, this gets replaced by this. So you can see, you can predict what is going to happen next, which node is going to be much prominent by looking into what has happened in the past. Again, a notion of analytics. This is a simple example with Karate Club. And what we are trying to do now is take these ideas, whatever we did in all these different domains, and try to build a, due to the lack of any other name, data analytics is used, but we're building a cloud platform being funded by NIST to do this for the next 3-year time period. So this is directly related to an enterprise. and also right from the machine level to the strategic level. So coming back to why did I tell all these things? Over a period of time, my course started essentially with teaching them basic statistical ideas or IT ideas and databases. Slowly I've added things which got into all this. This is an undergrad course, visualization, and then first I deal with case studies to motivate people to understand why this is important. Then I take them to visualization, then dimensionality reduction like all the other people. Focus on clustering and segmentation, and then classification. And then I teach them databases. I always felt databases and the data analysis, they go hand in hand together. And you also deal with some predictive analysis like my other two colleagues have put in here, PCA and then forecasting. So this is my undergraduate course. I do some big data, unstructured data concepts, and then teach a little bit of Mongo database, wherein you can deal with unstructured things. I teach MapReduce and Hadoop to some extent, and this is general BS on information modeling. So this is the undergrad course, and the graduate course is what is the context? It is Internet 2. We run the Internet 2. I'll come to that point. There's a lot of data, so I talk about that. And then analytic applications, and then I start with machine learning techniques, teach them decision trees, random forests, neural nets, regression, and logistic regression, and also data compression. I talk about here. And spend some time on big data, and then what is the idea of data science. And then graph analytics or graph mining, I spend some time, because you'll see that text mining, or even in retail, you can do a lot of graph analytics. Clustering is a major thing. In fact, our algorithm called label propagation algorithm, which is used for clustering large networks, you can find it in R, you can find it in Python, or in Java libraries. It is a part of all the big graph analytics software. And because of that, I tend to teach this fairly effectively. And then data analytics without distributed computing, because for cloud computing, some of the foundations of distributed computing are important, so I teach that. A little bit of cloud computing, and then I just touch upon IoT, Internet of Things. So what is Internet of Things? Tomorrow there is a panel, we are going to show you a real live demo, and but where each one of us is a Internet of Things. So whether it is Kaibo or Shiyu or Seifu or Satish, each or me, I have a thing in the internet. I have a cell phone. Anybody who doesn't have a smartphone here? Anybody who does not have a smartphone? Okay. Then if you did not have a smartphone, then you are a human. If you had a smartphone, you are a thing. Because if you have a smartphone, I can connect you to the rest of the world. So you are one of the billion or 2.3 billion people who have smartphones. So then obviously this whole idea of analytics is going to blow your mind off. It's not very clear what kind of even statistics would be useful in this particular case. So that's my 2 cents on data analytics, and I have lived with this sensor data. When I started, I didn't know what I was doing, and many people did not know what I was doing either. 1989, and then did in the machining, did it in the retail kind of data, and then networks, because you have few sensors to millions of sensors. That took me to networks, studied networks, and then tried to do clustering in networks. And today I can say I'm doing analytics, but 5 years back I didn't know what I was doing. So that's what it's an important thing. I think it's important for us to teach this to our undergrads as well as grad students. If we don't do it, we possibly are going to lag behind, because we already have optimization strength, we already have statistics strength, we need to have computing strength. If you combine that, it is very conceivable we could be good players in this field. Thank you so much.
So before we jump to the Q&A sections, I want to use 5 minutes for you to introduce one web platform recently created by my research lab, which is which is called IERA. So IERA stands for Industrial Engineering Era. So by the way, this is a collaboration work with Professor Zhou from Penn Universities. So this is a web platform that we designed particular for our IE society, try to connect all IE people in the world. So this web platform, through this web platform, industrial engineer, professors and students, we can share ideas, question, knowledge, and experience. So here I will give you some basic examples. For example, on the forum page, so you can ask a question about research or courses in different aspects. And also some students try to share their college application results and share their job hunting secrets, and also try to find some roommates when you're attending conferences and at a college. And also some students particularly ask about questions in softwares such as how to program. For each section, we try to allocate a few moderators. So if you are interested, please let me know. And currently, we try to test the functionality based on the UW-Madison students mainly. So we have more than 200 users already with visits more than 15,000 times. So we found it's particularly useful, although it's designed for professor and student, we found it's very useful for students. So just imagine, because you can log in with your existing social ID like Facebook, Google Plus, and Twitter, and LinkedIn. So for every post on this website, you can also share with your existing social networks. So you can share on your LinkedIn or Twitters. And this website is more than just a regular website. It's also a social network. So once you log in, you can add friends and send private messages. So with each other. And on this IERA board, we will regularly publish, recommend high quality articles and high quality topics. And also we will list the active petition users. We will try to encourage users to participate. So on the news page, we will post the news about competitions and also sharing data sets as Satish mentioned. Also the scholarship or awards. So all the students can participate. Just imagine, since everyone have the smartphone. So if you have any question, you can just send a message, and after a couple of hours, and then you will receive answer from multiple audiences. So on the central forum, this is mainly controlled by our IERA editorial teams. So we will regularly publish news, high quality articles, and some mainly used for education purposes. So here I want to emphasize IERA is a non-profit organization. And we, unlike other organizations like Informs, they also have a forum page, but they charge fees. And most of users are not students. So here we guarantee we provide lifetime services and free services to our IE societies. So for this kind of social network, you can see the more the people on board, the more powerful it will be. So here I call for your participation. So if you're a professor, please recommend this useful tool to your students. If your students, please try to log in. So just remember the website is very easy, called iera.net. And then once you register, you're on board and connect with each other, and then you become a citizen of internet. So I think that's all for this IERA. So now please welcome our panelists sitting in the front, and then we'll go to the Q&A section. Please. If you have any questions, you're welcome to ask.
We're done.
Okay.
So it seems that each of you has created your course organically by experimenting. Have you gotten any feedback from, I think that at least one of you mentioned students had come back, but have you gotten explicit feedback from either students or from industry that this is what they're looking for?
Anyone?
Quick answer is not yet, but a few anecdotal inputs is something that I shared. For example, Python is something that industry thought would add on, basically complement what all they were able to learn in the class. And it's not at the stage where I can stand up and say that, yeah, this is exactly what industry needs. I think that's a great thing for us to do.
So your question is regarding the course material, like are those material interesting to students and to industry? Is that your question?
Yeah, so I was interested, and I recognize that in particular two of your classes have been relatively recent. Dr. Kumar's has been more extended. But I was wondering if there was a feedback loop that would come back and say, here's what was in the course. Did the course meet the need, or is there a different need that would be better met by the course? That's what I was getting. I mean, it's clearly too new to really be ABEC before, so it's really something that you're interested in. You've seen the need for it individually, and that's why I was just wondering if there's any closure to the feedback.
We got feedback from students, but that's their personal opinion. During job hunting, they may get some discussion with the recruiter, etc. They found this technique is useful, but because our course is really just recently offered, we don't have this formal feedback from employee, but just through students.
So I had both, one from the students and the second one from the industries or the employers. And from the students, right from when they went to internship to when they took up jobs, they felt what they learned in this class was extremely useful. They could hit the ground running, to put it in a colloquial sense. So because they have a good exposure to Excel, they have a very good exposure to Access, they know how to do reports in Access and how to create databases and make queries in SQL. And in Excel, they know almost everything they can do, including writing macros in VB. So the students felt they had one hand upper from compared to other students who are doing internship, number one. And then number two, IPAC committee, the industrial advisory board within the department, they always gave me good feedback in terms of what will be useful and what will not be useful. And the best feedback I got was industries calling me back and saying, do you have any student whom you can recommend for internship or like a regular job? In fact, the one I showed you, the OpenMod using R, the student Nick, I don't want to divulge anything about him. He was having difficulty in finding a manufacturing job. So I told him, take this and then go to a few places, and he got a very good job. That is an indication. And most of my PhD students end up with good companies like Google, IBM, Cisco. So they must be doing something right. Did it answer your?
Yes, thank you.
Any other questions?
And in fact, I wanted to add, Paul Lynch was one of our faculty members who would interact with students, undergraduates, much more than I do on a regular basis. He always advocated that this is one of the best courses we teach because of the student feedback. Seifu taught this course a couple of times. Do you have anything you want to, on undergrad course?
They really like the class.
That doesn't say
I use his notes.
Courses, currently there is a big initiative try to push online. So for the analytics courses, I think a few programs try to also push online. But how do you see? Do you think it's an opportunity or is a threat? So should we go online for the analytics courses? Anyone?
The question of if has probably has already been crossed in the sense that if you look at analytics courses offered by STAT department in business school, if you look across many schools, they're pretty much considered to be money-making machines. They're pretty much offering not just one, but a series of courses focused on analytics. Many of my colleagues that I had interacted with in the business school, they mentioned enrollments in triple digits. So the question is whether to go and offer such courses in online. The answer is an affirmative yes. Yeah. But it's not simple because we are not the pioneers yet in starting this distance analytics program. So the market is fairly well saturated. So the issue is, if we are going to start an analytics program, what is the value that we can give to the prospective enrollee in such class? That is one aspect. And second thing, probably let me submit, is making sure the right person takes your class is an extremely important aspect. There will be a lot of attrition rate among the distance students because an engineering version of analytics class tends to be a little bit more rigorous than what they get to find in a typical business type of analytics class. So there has to be a lot of marketing muscle that needs to be complemented with the courses that we are going to package. So the issue in a very short fashion is, yes, there is a huge market awaiting, but market is saturated, so we need to carefully plan out how we launch a distance education class.
In my opinion, compared with other courses, those data analytics courses might be easier to be put online. Because it's by default, it's just testing different algorithms work on the data set. So compared with this lab-intensive course, like a hands-on lab-intensive courses, are relatively easy to be put online. But I believe Satish, during his presentation, raised a very important question. Like if IE offer data analytics courses, what are the unique features compared with the statistics department or computer science department offering data analytics course? So in my opinion, it's the main feature lays on what type of problems we solve. We're solving production system problems, look at the efficiency and quality. So all the examples should focus on this IE type of problem. So we try to give our IE students enlarged toolbox, so they can select from.
I think if you look at Johns Hopkins offers a fantastic series of courses in data science, which includes analytics. And Stanford offers in computer science, Yuri and his team, they offer a course on big data analytics. And MIT, I think, is looking at the edX program to try to combine courses to offer an analytics certification. So what is that we are going to do as industrial engineering people to compete with these people? It's not going to be easy. So I think what Shiyu offered here, that may be the way to go. You may have to go via a domain, say maybe health, for example. Maybe what kind of analysis you can do in the health, and package your course under that particular environment. Or smart manufacturing is coming back under different terminologies, advanced manufacturing by DARPA and NAMI by the current thing, and NIST calls smart manufacturing. So maybe manufacturing analytics. You may be doing the same thing in a different way, but application driven. Because if you go to health analytics, the real-time data analysis is very critical. What as an outlier you can throw away in manufacturing, you cannot throw away as an outlier in health analytics, because an outlier is a patient. If you throw it away, the patient is dead. The cost is high. So maybe the focus can be in terms of particular domains. and then the statisticians and optimizers within IE community combined with domain specialists, and from there develop these courses. I think then this saturation point is not valid, because it is though we may feel it is saturated in terms of offering courses, the accessibility to the type of domains is not saturated.
So I think you raise a very interesting questions. I have a follow-up question I want to ask. So you mentioned about data science, and also a lot of programs offer such class. So in your view, what's the difference between data analytics and data science? And in your courses, how do you kind of person you try to train the students to be?
If I have to be honest, I don't know the answer. But on the other hand, a possible answer that everybody gives is how many of us, when we teach an analytics course, talk about pre-processing the data, cleaning up the data, and then from that particular data, throw away all the unnecessary things. And if you have sparsity within the data, how do you fill that sparsity? All these things we don't teach in a regular analytics course. Whereas in a data science course, you deal right from picking up the data, how you are going to clean that particular data, how do you take care of what seemingly looks like an anomaly but is a part of this particular data. All those aspects form the first part of your data science. And then the middle part is the analysis part. And in the middle part, one of the main things is in data science, they deal with a lot of unstructured data. Unstructured would mean your numerical, text, voice, image, and all these things. So when you talk of this unstructured data, how are you going to deal with it? I don't think we do a good job in dealing with it. In data science, you have courses in the whole package to deal with it. Finally, if you take our analogy, it is reading, and then representation and inference. Reading, representation, analysis, and inference. Those are the four important things. So we are very good in analysis. We're not that good in reading. We're not that good in representation, especially with unstructured data. And then we're not that good in inference completely, only except for statistics. So that is what the distinction I feel is between data analytics and data science.
Any additional comments?
Okay. So, I really liked what all three of you presented. This hearing or walking around these conferences, everybody is very excited about big data, analytics, and everything. For sure, there is a lot of push from the industry. They're collecting a lot of data, etc. But from the course offering standpoint, what has really suddenly spearheaded the need for such to have a panel, to have such courses? Because when I looked at the techniques, I mean, it's not that I teach any course that was. I would think that IT also has been developed 100 years ago. With that caveat, I'm asking a question. What I did not find was, why did this suddenly just rise up? The methodology is something that was there for a long time ago. That may be because of my hanging out for a long time with Professor Kumara. That could be. But all these words seem, I've heard this 10, 15 years ago. And so what was the sudden buzz?
I think for our department, the main drive is the student feedback and the industry advisory part feedback. So the student, during job hunting, they found a lot of people talk about this so-called data analytics. They want to learn, they want to be competitive in the job market. So whenever we do survey, they write down, we want those type of course. And our advisory board member also say, this everybody doing. It's actually come from industry, I think from employee. This is the main drive. And about the content, for the courses we offer, it's not in typical IE, traditional IE undergraduate curriculum. For those traditional curriculum, often just end up with regression, that's it.
Sure.
No fancier classification of the types. So for IE students, like undergraduate students, they do need a new course to cover more material along this data analysis line. That's not
I'll give an example. Part of the reason I asked the question is I used to be the single biggest employer of engineers in the state of Ohio. That was my job. And it took me days to find one of those engineers who could do what I thought was a simple Monte Carlo analysis. So I went to UH and said, what are you teaching up here? Because I'm hiring all of your engineers, but you can't work on problems that are evolving. And yes, okay, great, you can do pipe analysis all day long, but I need somebody who can do Monte Carlo simulations. So I think that's what you're seeing here is people out in the industry saying, we've got problems, we need people, who can we find to go do this?
I think there is some truth to what you said, not completely negative. I think all these techniques have been there. For example, maybe in the 60s, the notion of projection pursuit was there. Right? One of the first papers, I think in the late 50s or early 60s. And now, 20 years later, after backpropagation, neural networks became very, very prominent. That is the kind of transition we see. That is what it is. All these techniques are there, but in order for a student to get familiar with all of them, they may have to take n number of different, n being large here, of different courses. Whereas here, if we can have a package of maybe 2 or 3 courses in which you can do all these things, that is one thing that is novel in this course offering. The second thing is, the amount of data is becoming larger and larger. The question is whether all of them are useful or not. How much data is useful is a real statistical question that has been bothering people for years and years, right? It's a similar thing. Added to that, it has become real time. How would you deal with it? That is a challenge the industry faces. That is a challenge even academicians will face, because universities are what businesses, right? These days, universities are not really there to impart education. Impart education, but make money. That is added thing. When you want to do that, then you want to gear them to the market. So that is also another force.
No, the reason I was asking this question is because I think historically statistics was one in which you have a few number of data points and you want to actually build the world with a small sample that we have. You want to take a guess at the population. Now we are in a situation where we're doing the opposite. So I was wondering, did that start some new methods in statistics and maybe we have to go there?
It has to. The reason is simple. Because of the computational availability, do you really need to do PCA? I don't know. See, dimensionality reduction you tend to do because your principal component analysis gives you that. And if I can relate every variable to the other variable, even if I had 250 variables, it will not matter to me because I have the computing power. But if you accept the argument, if your number of attributes increase to infinity, what do you do? Everything will fail. But the big question that that is out there is, whether you even need the sampling anymore, right? And earlier when you had, let's say for a patient, if you have 240 attributes, right? That is what our experience had been after synthesizing everything. And for a particular kind of disease, you may have 10 patients. How do you deal with that? So it is in one form big data in terms of your dimension, but in terms of the sample size is very, very small. That's the population. So all these questions, perhaps you go back to the original statistics and come back to see what new methods can be done. There's in fact a very nice paper about 2 years back in Science on this high dimension data. A new method to
Probably we can take one last one questions. Okay, go ahead.
This is just real quick. So you were saying that you have undergrad courses. What is the year? Are they mostly juniors or sophomores or seniors taking this? And then do most of the kids come in with work experience saying, hey, wow, this is really useful, I wish I had this at my internship? Or do they come back after going out and seeing it? And do you think that having it earlier before internships would be more beneficial so that they have those tools going into an internship? Or do you think that it's more valuable to have it after an internship so that they can realize the value of the tools?
I would say junior level, wherein they are entering into the particular field, like for us in IE, that will be the ideal time to teach this, because internships tend to be after that. So my class had almost 90% juniors, maybe 10% the seniors perhaps, who already had the internship and said, oh, wish I had this course before. So my experience is junior level, first semester when they come into the department. We have a required course, first semester when they come into the department.
Yeah, I agree with Dr. Kumara. Because those courses do need some math background, like linear algebra, basic probability, cannot take too early. The junior maybe is the earliest time. And it will be useful. I think a lot of students already have a little bit intern experience. They know what happens in industry and what techniques they need. And that's why motivate them to select this course also.
Okay, so I think we ran out of time, but if you are interested, I think our panelists can be there for a few more minutes, and you can ask your questions. By the way, today's section will be is recorded and will be pushed on the IERA websites, and also we will try to provide some database that we can share materials, syllabus. So if you're interested to offer such classes, you can visit our websites, and then we can exchange materials. Try to reestablish the IE representation for these analytics courses. Okay, thanks for everyone's